What's up, tubulars? Got an opinion review on some batteries for the Sony a6500, my use case, maybe your use case, and what I actually think of OEM batteries versus the third-party batteries. Now, I am going to go against the grain on this one, so if you happen to be gluten-free, you're definitely in the right place. Alright, so let's just actually get into the content here. Let's just get to it when we're talking about the batteries. So I actually have 6 FW50 batteries that I use and rotate throughout my workflow. And I'm talking about the run and gun style of shooting. I'm not necessarily talking about that review that I did, and I'll link that up here, where if you're looking for an extended battery option, something like time lapses, long interviews, basically recording continuously for quite a while, that option is really good. However, like when I'm on the move, like when I'm on the go, I'm really looking for those FW50 batteries and switching those out as quickly as possible. So let's actually start with the Sony OEM battery that is rated, or on the label, 1020 milliamp hours versus the Wasabi that goes all the way up to 1300 milliamp hours. And I also have a RAV power that is rated at 1100 milliamp hours. So when we're looking like spec to spec, or at least capacity, you might think, okay, well that Wasabi, that's a good deal. And it is when you look at it from the price point, because here's the thing. Sony, you get this battery for around $50. If you're lucky, it might be as much as $60, but around $50 on Amazon, and you get the battery, and you get the battery. Now, if you're buying the Wasabi, you're going to be spending anywhere from between $20 to $25. You're going to get 2 of the Wasabi batteries, along with this dual charger that comes with a cable, USB type A to micro USB, and you can charge your batteries that way. Because ultimately, Sony, we don't like charging our batteries in the camera. Now, one thing that I need to preface here is that I rotate my batteries throughout my workflow. So they're all labeled, and I will actually start from 1 and discharge them all if that's what the day holds for me, and then I'll go back and I'll charge them, and I'll even start on 6 and go work my way down to 1. So I like to discharge them and then charge them back up and use them until like they're pretty much spent. I can tell you that from my use case on that run and gun style, that the Sony battery seems to hold its charge between 20 and 30% like better, like higher, like I'm getting more usage out of it than these third-party batteries. Now, your mileage may vary. I'm not talking about just turning the camera on, because there are filmmakers out there that have turned the camera on and said, okay, it's discharging at this, and I can get 2 hours out of this one. I can get 1 hour and 45 minutes out of the Sony battery. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my particular shooting style that could be aligned with your shooting style. So for that discharge, I can tell that the Sonys are discharging at a less rapid rate. Like I'm getting more time out of it because I'm turning the camera on and off. It's going into standby. Sometimes I don't have it on like power save modes. I'm getting more use out of it. For the Wasabi and the RAV power, from my experience, it seems to not hold the charge as long. There are times where I actually charge the battery and the battery may sit for like even a couple of days, and then when I put it in the camera, now for the Sony OEM, I put it in the camera and I get that 100% indicator. Sometimes on those third-party batteries, it's not at 100%. It might be anywhere between like low 90s to maybe mid 90s, but nothing that's like below 90. And that's only after a couple of days of it just kind of sitting around. One of the biggest things that I have to really emphasize here is the fact that these third-party batteries, I've already had issues with it starting as of yesterday. So filming on a gimbal, run and gun style, I'm not adding any extra things. I didn't want the extra bars on there with the monitor and all the external batteries and stuff. I'm just talking about using this gimbal and being able to flip that battery compartment open and pop a battery out and pop a battery in. So my Wasabi number 3 went down yesterday. And what I mean by that is I was in the middle of a shoot, and I was in between, and I wanted to flip this battery out and put another one in because it had pretty much been close to discharged, and I couldn't get it out. Like the spring would not push the battery out, and I had to basically go in and pry it out of there. Here's the thing. Do not use knives or anything that's going to puncture these batteries, because they could potentially like explode or ooze or whatever. And this is your gear I'm talking about here. This is my gear I'm talking about here. Now, I realize that for the Sony OEMs, I realize that these could also swell and explode or leak or whatever. I get it. It's a battery. I understand that. However, I can tell you that I've received RAV Power batteries, and I love RAV Power products, especially their charging stations. But what I can tell you is that I've received some of them where I've got 2 of them in the kit, and this particular one was actually, it came swollen. Like I could not even put it into the camera. So you don't want that. You don't want these things getting stuck in your camera, and you certainly don't want it to get swollen to a point where it could be leaking or causing damage to your camera. So the big question is, do you want to save some money now and spend $50 on just one battery, no chargers, no other accoutrements, or get the Wasabi or something similar and get like the charger and the cable? You get 2 of these batteries for half the price of this one battery. In the short term, you're saving some money. In the long term, you could be spending a lot more money because you may be, like at the very least, having to replace these batteries because they're not holding the charge, they're swelling, and you can't use them anymore. And quite frankly, folks, from an environmental perspective, please recycle your batteries appropriately. But that's the thing, like a lot of people are saying like, well, I'll just buy more batteries because I can get like 4 of those Wasabi batteries or those knockoff batteries, or third party, shouldn't say knockoff batteries, for a lot less. The thing is too, is that some of these manufacturers, or many of them, it may be coming from the same manufacturer and they're just putting a different label on it. So just be mindful of that. I just wanted to give you my perspective, my use case, and my experience. I will definitely be sticking to the Sony OEM batteries for the long term for my a6500 to protect my gear, but to also get longer life when it comes to shooting months and even years out. I realize like battery life, it only goes so long, but so far over the last year, those 2 OEM batteries have been winners for me. So you may want to flame me on this one. Go ahead and do it, but if you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave those below. If you found this helpful, be sure to like it. And as always, keep rocking faces, do things that matter. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.